In these videos, we're going to look at the relationship between kinetic energy and collisions. And so our opening question here is, why does it hurt when you run into something? And of course, when you're moving, you have kinetic energy, and when you run into something, that kinetic energy goes into causing damage to you. That energy has to go somewhere when something stops, like if you walk into a door, and that energy goes into deformation, deforming your body, which your body responds to by a pain response. And the rest of this we're going to talk about is mostly about cars, but remember that all these cars have people in them. So again, performing calculations on kinetic energy before and after collisions. Here's a image I came across while I was searching for collisions. Nice Porsche, but unfortunately he's had something crash through the windshield. I'm guessing it looks like it's probably some kind of foul. It might be a rock. It's kind of hard to tell from the picture. But it's smashed right into and stuck into the windshield. And if we look, you can see it's got a European Union license plate. So perhaps they were driving faster than we would be in the United States. I'm not sure. But it's done some serious damage. So the combination of the kinetic energy of this vehicle and potentially whatever it is that flew up here, between the two of them has done a lot of damage to this windshield. So let's go back and look at something, get this out of the way, go back and look at something we had looked at earlier just a few weeks ago, and that was the truck crashes during the collisions video. Remember, there was the Toyota Tundra, and you probably remember more vividly the Ford F-150 that during the collision suffered considerable damage and probably would have seriously injured the occupants. And so what we want to do here is figure the kinetic energy of the trucks before they collide. And here's the data I looked up: the mass of a Tundra and the mass of an F-150, and that was the 40 mile per hour frontal off speed crash test. So I'm going to pause here, or you're going to pause here, and I want you to calculate how much kinetic energy each one has. We've used the kinetic energy formula of 1/2 mv squared several times. So go ahead and calculate how much kinetic energy each one of these has. Okay, so hopefully you've done your calculations as I asked, so you practice using that kinetic energy formula. And the answers to this are about 311,000 joules for a Tundra and about 346,000 joules for an F-150, which is about a 10% or so difference. And I'm asking if it's significant, and let's just assume that pretty much it's not a big difference between the two. So in essence, they have the same amount of kinetic energy before they run into that barrier. But then the next question is, what happens to that energy when they do run into the barrier? They both have 300,000 joules, more than 300,000 joules of energy, and where does that energy go? And as I mentioned in a previous video, please don't tell me it went into the barrier. Some of the energy was transferred to the barrier, but in what form? So let's list some of the things here. You may be able to think of things like there's certainly deformation. There's crushing of glass, there's bending of metal, there's breaking of plastic. The barrier may be damaged somewhat too. There's also heat and sound that's produced. So all that energy that the car, or the truck in this case, has to be transformed into something else. Okay, in part 2 we'll go on and explore more about the energy of collisions.